Good evening. It's Monday, April 20th, 2020. I'd like to welcome you to the second ever committee meeting via teleconference. At this time, I'd like to open the Administrative Services Committee meeting for Monday, April 20th. Please call the roll. Do we have is Brooke here?
Councilor Cordino.
Here.
Councilor McCurdy.
Here.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Tesorero.
He's excused.
Councilor Burridge.
Here.
Okay. Is there any, okay, that's the roll. Please provide me a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6th, 2020 committee meeting. Councilor Hill, Councilor McBurdy.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McCurdy.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Burridge.
Yes.
In this video, I'll show you how
Is there any old business to attend to on this committee? Seeing none, moving right along to item number 1 under communication. Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. requests authorization to execute an agreement and advance funds with Delta Engineers to provide engineering and land surveying services for the city of Oswego flood damage repair associated with DR 4472, the FEMA declaration from 2019 associated with the high water levels along Lake Ontario. Mayor Barlow?
Thank you. This is just to back up, the 2017 FEMA declaration included 4 different areas. The shoreline behind Brightbeck Park along Harbor Trail needs to be reinforced with riprap. We're going to talk about that later this evening. Wright's Landing, in conjunction with our ready improvement projects, will see some pavement resurfacing and some sheet piling. The International Pier area will see some sheet piling on the east side as far as repair work. And the 4th area is the Shore Road area on the east side of Oswego, reinforcing the shoreline near the residential neighborhood out on Shore Road. That's 2017. This item speaks to the FEMA declaration that happened in 2019. Right around Halloween time, you'll remember we had that windy, wavy, wet storm that happened and left quite a bit of damage. Every time there's a severe thunderstorm with waves, with wind, with rain, the damage is compounded because of the high water levels on Lake Ontario. So, before our shoreline could withstand plenty of force and plenty of storm, and now it can't because the high water level just puts that much more pressure on the shoreline. So luckily in 2019, we received another FEMA declaration, the second declaration. And this declaration speaks to 2 areas in the city that received a considerable amount of damage. The first area is behind the east side wastewater plant. Before, there was plenty of land between the lake and the east side wastewater facility. In fact, we planted some trees there about 2 years ago. If you drove back there now, you'll see that the high water and the waves is quickly eroding the shoreline back there. So the water is getting close to the east side wastewater facility. So we need to speed this declaration up to get some shoreline reinforcement and build back that shoreline to prevent more erosion. That's the first part. The second part is if right now you are walking on the West Linear Riverwalk and you walk down behind the Cahill building and continue walking towards the lake, as most of you know, the sidewalk's closed and is actually collapsed in a large portion. And that is because the high water levels and waves have worn away the integrity underneath the sidewalk area. That resulted initially in a first collapse, and then because the damage was left to sit there, it's actually caused a wider collapse so that more of the area is now collapsed. So the FEMA declaration will pay to repair both areas to condition that we deem appropriate, and that's ultimately what this item speaks to. Delta engineers handled the first FEMA declaration. They did first of all, the preliminary damage assessment immediately after the 2017 flooding. We hired them to come in to provide that estimate that we turned into FEMA to get that initial $5 million disbursement. After that preliminary damage assessment report they did, they then went back to those 4 areas that we received money for and developed the more in-depth scope and assessment, and then put together the bid documents and the condition assessment that we're using to guide us as the guiding document to guide us through bidding these projects and ultimately repairing these areas in the city. It only makes sense for consistency purposes to continue our relationship with the Delta with this FEMA declaration. They know all the players in FEMA. They know the players on the city side, so those relationships have already been created. To my knowledge, most people on the city side, city engineer, DPW commissioner, Oswego Fire Department, who's actually leading this project for us, are all pleased with the work Delta has done and how communication flows, and for consistency purposes, it makes sense to continue that relationship. So this item is to allow me to authorize and execute the agreement, which would take $222,000 of the FEMA declaration funds to pay Delta to come on, scope, do a damage assessment, develop the scope, bid, and construction management. This again, it's FEMA money, so it's reimbursed funds. We're not talking city funds here. This will actually come out of the declaration. I do not know the total amount we'll receive from this declaration, because FEMA will use the document that Delta will present to gauge how much money the city needs to do this work, and ultimately that will dictate our disbursement, and then we go to bid on projects.
All right, very good. Any questions from the council for the mayor on this particular item? One thing I'd like to bring out, Mayor, just in the interest of transparency, there's 2 parts to this, as you explained, and the amount for each of the parts totals $222,000, but the Riverwalk portion, I believe, is $74,000, and the east side wastewater Shoreline is $148,000, and that's where the total of $222,000 comes from. Correct?
Yep.
Very good. Any comments or concerns from the council?
Yes, I do, please.
Yes, Councilor. Which one is that?
Walker.
Oh, yes, Councilor Walker. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question for the mayor. When do you think this project will get underway after everything's done? Will it be this summer, before fall? And
it'll be a stretch to get it in this summer. With everything going on, we'll actually be pushing FEMA to approve this and get this stuff rolling for us. So if you look back at the 2017 declaration, as you'll see tonight, we're just now getting the bid back from the riprap Brightbeck Park shoreline. So, the 2017 declaration, we've already done it once, so it'll be much shorter than 2 years this time. But I think this really ambitious to talk this fall. I think by the time Delta, and keep in mind, we're already doing our other 4 FEMA areas plus the ready work. So I think probably construction next year to allow them to get in, do this study, do the assessment, develop the scope, prepare bid docs, get it out to bid, award a contract or get it on their schedule. I think you're looking at next summer.
okay, I was just wondering, I just don't want to see more damage be done before we get into construction area.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Anybody else have any questions for the mayor on this item? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Burridge, Councilor McBurdy, please call the roll.
Councilor Cordino,
Yes.
Councilor McCurdy,
Yes.
Councilor Hill,
Yes.
Councilor Burridge,
Yes.
and we need a resolution.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
Mayor's office. Item number 2, Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. requests authorization to select and approve the bid submitted by W.D. Malone Trucking and Excavating Incorporated for the Route 48 Gateway Project. Mr. Mayor?
So this is a project that actually dates back to my time on the city council back in 2014, believe it or not. To give the project some context, this project wasn't really going to get off the ground. There was some uncertainty behind whether the city back in 13 and 14 and 15, for that matter, wanted to do it. Luckily, we've hung on, and after some delays, changing the scope, moving the scope, we feel ready to move forward and get it done. I think it's a worthwhile project. It's in the 5th Ward, which is why I advocated for it actively back in 2014 and 15. It's known as the Route 48 Green Gateway Project. And the point of the project is to implement bioswales from Route 48 and Murray Street, that intersection, down to where Elam Grace Church is now. Bioswales is the area that will be between the curb and the sidewalk in public space. And the job of the bioswale is to collect rainwater and naturally remediate rainwater and prevent it from having to go into the storm sewer system, and actually naturally treating the rainwater on top of that. It's really an extensive beautification project for the Route 48 corridor. On one side of the road where the dam is will be lined with new trees, and a lot of the bioswales will be on actually the west side in front of Pinnacle Builders, Oswego Printing, going down in front of Next Generation Daycare, Elam Grace Church, and in that area. The reason it took so long to get this project done and to solidify the location of the project is because when the project was actually awarded back in 14-15, we still had the sewer separation project that was going to be in that area of the city. So as Councilor Gozik can probably vividly remember, in 2017 as Route 48, Erie Street, Niagara Street was completely torn up because of the sewer separation. So it didn't make sense to do it until after post 2017. We got to work post 2017, and by the time we selected the location, used CNS to develop the scope in the bid docs and bid out the project, here we are in the beginning of 2020. The project is a $437,000 project total. That includes construction and design. It's funded by a grant that we won years ago. It's a 75-25 match. The only bid came back, just let me find the total here. For the actual physical construction is $248,000 by W.D. Malone. It's the one and only bid that we received. That's actually under the $311,000 budget that we had for construction. And the city match for the project total will be about $107,000 because that's 25% of both construction and design.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mayor. Any questions or concerns from the council on this particular item? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor McBurdy, Councilor Hill.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McCurdy.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Burridge.
Yes.
And we need a resolution?
Mr. Mayor?
The engineering office will handle that.
Very good. Item number 3, Randall B. Griffin, Fire Chief, requests permission for the city chamberlain to accept monetary donation of $2,500 from NRG Energy Incorporated. Mr. Mayor, you want to talk about this one?
Yep, this is the easiest agenda item on the agenda tonight. This was an unsolicited donation by NRG Energy, who emailed me, and they would like to donate $2,500 to the city of Oswego first responders, the fire department. The only criteria they're putting to it is they wish to have the $2,500 spent on COVID-19 related expenses.
All right, very good. Seems like a simple item. Any questions or concerns from the council? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Counselor Burridge, Counselor McCurdy.
Counselor Coordino,
Yes.
Counselor McCurdy,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 4, the City Engineering Department requests that the bid submitted by W.D. Malone Trucking and Excavating Incorporated for the Brightbeck Shoreline Restoration Project be approved. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. So going back to our discussion with FEMA, this is reverts back to the 2017 declaration due to the high water along Lake Ontario. This will be the first of our 4 FEMA projects to get going from 2017. This project involves adding riprap to the Harbor Trail Brightbeck Park shoreline. As we were building Harbor Trail in 2017, we actually had to deal with the rising water back then, which was eroding the shoreline. So luckily we were doing Harbor Trail, which helped mitigate the erosion in 2018 and 2019. But with the high water levels being the quote new normal for the foreseeable future, we need to use this FEMA money to rebuild, reinforce the shoreline and stop it from eroding. And it'd be a real shame if it continued to erode and washed away our Harbor Trail that we just completed a couple years ago. So again, Delta developed the scope here. The allocation for this project, specifically the Brightbeck Park riprap project, was approximately 2.2 million. Luckily, we had 2 quotes come in. One quote was 1.5 million. The other quote, which is the quote with W.D. Malone we're going with, is 1.7 million. The low quote, 1.5, was disqualified because we explicitly stated in bid meetings and as an addendum number 2 on the bid docs that we required the riprap to be barged in from lake, obviously, to on a barge and then placed from the water. We did not want the extraordinary amount of truck traffic that this project will require, hauling the big stones in from other locations, to be coming down Liberty Street through our downtown or through our neighborhoods. Plus, we are advocating for a cleaner construction site to avoid Brightbeck Park from being a total mess. We already will have a lot of construction in and around Brightbeck and in the marina. So this was one project that we thought would make sense to have this stuff barged in. It's safer and it's more convenient for downtown and neighborhoods. So we're hoping to accept the W.D. Malone bid to begin this work very soon for $1.7 million. Again, not city money. This is FEMA money, totally reimbursed. Actually, not reimbursed. FEMA has the money already allocated that we can use. We actually don't need to play that shell game.
Even better. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Any concerns, questions, comments from the council on this particular item? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor Hill, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Coordino,
Yes.
Counselor McCurdy,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 5, the City Engineering Department requests that the mayor be authorized to sign change order number 1 with Marcellus Construction Company for the combined sewer separation third 25% with no increase to the total contract amount of $6,462,229. Mr. Mayor?
So this change order involves the sewer separation project, which is taking place on the west side of Oswego right now in the downtown area. This $0 change order is slightly misleading, but it is true. In the contract that the council authorized when we went to do this project, we actually built in excuse me, a $600,000 allowance for situations like this, for change orders that were expected, that were built into the contract. It's such a massive project, multi-million-dollar project in the oldest part of town. We have brick sewers in this area. We have water mains, sewer mains, water pipes, sewer pipes that are in the ground that we don't even know are there because they didn't keep prints back then, or the city didn't properly maintain the prints over the last 100 years. So we knew that this was going to be a very difficult, complex project, and that's why we built in such a large allowance rate into the contract. That's why this is a $0 change order. The reason for the change order is the city is requesting that we actually install new water valves while we're in the ground, already have the streets opened up and the sidewalks opened up. We might as well do it while we're there. This will also help minimize inconvenience for business owners and residents as the project continues through the summer. We just started this, so we still have a long way to go with the project this summer. Councilor Hill can speak to this. Actually, this morning's a great example. We had a shut off this morning from about 6 a.m. Scheduled till noon, but fortunately they got it done at about 9:15. The shut-off area had to, because we didn't have water valves in between, we actually had to shut off all the water from Utica Street all the way down to West Cayuga Street along West 1st and West 2nd. That is an enormous, and probably the worst area to order a shutdown, which we did. We put everybody on notice Friday afternoon, so they had few days to prepare. But the reason why the shut-off area was so large is because typically the area has valves throughout that create shorter shutdowns. So for instance, if we had a working valve at West Mohawk Street or West Bridge Street even, we could have shut off water from Utica to Mohawk or Utica to Bridge, worked on that area, fired the water back up, and then went and shut down water from Bridge and Cayuga and isolate and minimize the shut-off time as much as possible. Because our valves are so old, because the infrastructure is so old and antiquated, these valves over the years have been broken, so they aren't functioning properly. We can't isolate as much as we would want. So we're going to fix the valves while we have the ground open up, make it easier for future projects, and that will be bound to happen in the coming years.
All right, very good. Any questions for the mayor on this particular item? I did want to point out one thing, Mayor, that this is the first use for the contingency allowance, the $600,000. So this leaves about $589,000 left for this project.
Yeah, $10,800 for these new valves.
Okay, and that leaves about $589,000 left. Hopefully we don't have to use it, but as you explained with all the old infrastructure, probably we'll be visiting this again.
Sure. And again, I want to just point out that the city is requesting this be done. This isn't something that the contractor overlooked or misjudged or made an error. This is something that makes sense to do while we're down there, and we wanted to make that decision now.
Very good. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor McBurney, Councilor Hill.
Councilor Cordino.
Yes.
Councilor McCurdy.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Burridge.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
This will be the engineering office as well.
Very good. Moving right along to item 6, the City Engineering Department requests that the mayor be authorized to sign change order number 1 with John R. Dudley Incorporated, the East Side Wastewater Treatment Plant electrical and SCADA upgrades with no increase to the total contract amount of $1,970,370. Mr. Mayor?
Same story here, $0 change order, slightly misleading in that we built in a $100,000 allowance for this project. This is the almost $2 million project that we're doing at the wastewater facility. So the East Side wastewater facility. The reason for this $48,000 change order, $48,305, is the contractors, while they're there working, actually found asbestos that the city didn't know about. the bid developer didn't know about, and obviously the contractor, there's no way he would have known until he got down there and started working. So again, it's a $0 change order. We built in the $100,000 allowance already. This will take about $48,000 of that, but we think it's necessary to get the asbestos out of there and continue the project.
All right, very good. Any questions from the council on this one? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor Burge, Councilor McBurney.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Moving along to item number 7. The Office of Community Development requests that the mayor be authorized to sign change order number 1F with Barton and Loduci, DPC, in the downtown Oswego Route 104 Complete Streets project with a decrease of $35,582, change the total project amount to $1,086,813. Mr. Mayor?
So this is the 104 Complete Streets project that we started and completed last year as part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. This project, you remember, was funded $1 million from our $10 million downtown revitalization grant. It was also funded by a $500,000 federal TAP grant that we received. This is the final transaction affiliated with this project. It's actually a decrease of $35,582, bringing the total project cost and closing out the project at $1,086,000.
Very good. That is good news, obviously. Any comments from anybody? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor Hill, Councilor Burridge.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 8, the City of Oswego Youth Bureau requests that the mayor be authorized to sign the annual agreements with the Youth Bureau and the Oswego YMCA for the operation of the East Side Youth Bureau and Skate Park, as well as for youth development, state aid for Oswego Recreation / Youth Services / Administration. Mr. Mayor?
This item really is already authorized when we pass the budget every year. So the funding's already budgeted. This is permission for me to sign the actual agreement. If you remember back to budget 2020, back in September of 19, when we passed it, we are relocating the youth activities associated with the YMCA from what's known as the Ponzi Building, East Side Youth Center, to the former church on the east side, and we are taking the skate park, which was next to Skips, and moving that into the same location under one roof. We think that's good for many different reasons. They were outgrowing the facility downtown, and we think it's beneficial for both the kids and the staff at the YMCA to have these two locations consolidated, so that they don't need to be scheduling and manning two different locations at once. We actually, with the move, remember back in the budget, it was just about a wash as far as expense for the city. The relocation under one roof makes it more affordable. However, the increase in minimum wage really offsets the cost. So pretty much we're right where we started, just the YMCA has a more workable, desirable location that I think the kids will enjoy, and hopefully they can settle into their new home here in the near future and get the programs running just like they were before the move.
Yeah, good.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions or comments, Mayor, or for the mayor? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councilor McBurney, Councilor Hill.
Counselor Cordino,
Yes.
Counselor McBurney,
Yes.
Counselor Hill,
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Item number 9, the City Engineering Department requests that the mayor be authorized to sign a proposal with National Grid to provide lighting to Fifth Avenue, poles 29 and a half, 30, and 34, and that the previously approved resolution number 19 of 2020 be rescinded. Mr. Mayor?
So when this came before the council earlier this year with resolution number 19, two things. Number one, we had the wrong account numbers associated with that resolution, so National Grid wants that connected. And there was some confusion about the associated expense, whether it was $97 total or whether it was each pole. I wanted to clarify that it's each pole. So the city requested 3 new poles be placed on Fifth Ave. A lot of investment happening with what were known as the Blues Apartments. And it's actually a nice neighborhood. And over time, street lights have gone out. And it's really dark down towards the end, so it makes sense to light it up. So we asked National Grid for 3 more poles, and it's a $289 increase in our contract that we have annually at National Grid to get those 3 no poles in. So that's what this resolution does, and it fixes the wrong account numbers from number 19 of 2020.
All right, very good. Any questions for the mayor on this one? Seems simple enough. Can I have a motion, please? Councilor Burridge, Councilor McBurney.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurney.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
All right, I believe that was the last item for this committee. Is there any other unfinished business to attend to? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Hill, Councilor McBurney.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurney.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting for Monday, April 20th, 2020 to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Burridge.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Goza.
Here. Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business under authorization. Item number 1, the Zoning and Planning Office has received a request from the Port City Enterprises LLC, owner of commercial property at 198 West First Street, for use of public space to install a 19-foot by 8-foot retractable awning fronting West First Street. This, I believe, is the second of our Downtown Improvement Fund awarded projects, something that will be very beneficial to downtown. Mayor, would you like to speak on this?
If this is part of our Downtown Improvement Fund project from our $10 million DRI grant, I think in the packet it really shows, the Downtown Improvement Fund was meant to really help business owners along West First Street beautify West First Street and invest in the facades and the exterior appearance of their businesses. This is one of the first projects from that Downtown Improvement Fund to get off the ground. And hopefully if all the other businesses follow suit here quickly, downtown should look quite different by the end of summer.
Great. Are there any questions or comments on this request? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Walker, Counselor Gosick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Goza.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion. Oh, you have another?
We need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Oh, we skipped it. Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from our April 6th, 2020 meeting? Counselor Walker, Counselor Gosick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Goza.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Counselor Gosick, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Goza.
Yes.
Okay, it's time for the third and final meeting of the night for the Planning and Development Committee meeting. Please call the roll.
Counselor Tesorero.
He's excused.
Counselor Cordino.
Here.
Counselor McBurney.
Here.
I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the March 2nd, 2020 committee meeting. Counselor McBurney, Counselor Corradino.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McCurdy,
Yes.
Is there any old business for this committee? Seeing none. Item number 1, the City Engineering Department requests that the city clerk be authorized to schedule a public hearing for the adoption of local law number 1 of the year 2020, a local law amending Chapter 108, electrical standards of the Code of the City of Oswego, New York. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. This is the first official step we have to take to adopt some new rules and regulations in the electrical code. These changes have been something the electrical board in the city of Oswego have been working on for quite some time. They were working on some of the changes they wanted, and at the same time, we expressed some changes that we wanted from the administration side as far as transparency with the test goes. So I'll go through a few of the major changes in this. Some of the changes get really granular, and you probably, at least the public, will probably not be interested in them. So I'll cover some of the biggest points. The first point clarifies that a license is not required for an owner to perform work in an owner's residential property. Historically, there's always been some back and forth there on who can work where. Of course, we have a lot of rentals in the city, so can a landlord work on property they own if they don't live in it was always the issue there. So we're clarifying that a license isn't required for an owner to perform work in their residential property. Commercial properties, however, do require a licensed electrician to perform work. In addition, this change clarifies that certain types of maintenance and replace in-kind work does not require a licensed electrician in the city. The second major change, which is probably the biggest change of the whole package, is it adds a more clear description to the experience requirement. In the electrical code right now, it really isn't stated explicitly in the code. We are saying that in order to be a master electrician in the city, you need a minimum of 10 years to meet that requirement. The board thinks that's more than reasonable. Other municipalities have that requirement in it as well. So I think it makes sense. And it makes sense to know that a master electrician, somebody who is going to have the active license and ultimately be responsible for the license and the jobs associated with that license, have at least 10 years of experience. Number 3 is a requirement that adds moral character requirements. This is similar, if you remember back, Councilor Gozick and Corradino, what we did with the taxi legislation. We actually put in some language in there that tries to add a moral character requirement to it. And there's a long list of, we really don't want people with lengthy criminal records to have license entering people's homes, people's basements to do this work, particularly residence property. So the change introduces a statute of limitations to limit the enforceability of the provision to conviction dates after January 1st, 2010. So we're not going to dig way back beyond 2010 to search for it, but moving forward from 2010 on, we'll take that into account when you apply to take the test and get a license. Number 4, and this is the part that I really fought for, was to introduce a transparent, consistent, fair, predictable examination process. And what I mean by that is for years, the test would just appear and you'd have really, if you were somebody interested in taking the test, or the general public for that matter, and you were interested in the test, you really wouldn't know where to go, how to study for it, when it was held, who to talk to, how much time you have, how to practice, how do you get the grade. That was all kind of make up as you go. And if you happen to find out, good for you. And if you didn't, well, that's too bad. We'll see you next year. We actually want to put in a system so that if you're an out-of-town contractor or even a local contractor interested in getting this license, you actually have a fair shot and understand the process, and you know what you're signing up for going in, you know the expectations. We are mandating 2 exams be held a year right now. As people apply, the board kind of votes to take the test, and they have to come together at random times, sometimes multiple times throughout the year, to put a test together. That's very time consuming. The board, just so the public knows, made up of predominantly business owners, electricians in Oswego County, who are very busy and have to take time out of their busy schedules and their jobs to administer this test. So similar to the plumbing board, we are just fixing 2 regular exam dates, one in January, one in July. And that gives people they know if they're planning a job for that summer, they have to take the test that January and hope they pass so that they can do the work that summer. And then same for July, if they have jobs in the spring or in the fall in the following year, they know to take the July test as well. That'll happen every year. We are creating a timetable for the board and the applicant to have the conversation of applying for the test. What we're saying is we would like the public to be notified a minimum of 90 days prior to an exam that an exam will be held. That doesn't happen right now. The applicant will be given a minimum of 60 days to submit an application and be notified of the exam in writing within 20 days after the exam. So they are made aware of the test 90 days before. They have to apply 60 days before. And then once they apply, we're also capping the number of questions and the time limit for the test, so that an applicant doesn't walk in there and is given 2 hours to do a 180 question test, which really isn't reasonable. So we're going to cap that. And then once they take the test, the board has 20 days to grade the test and get back to the applicant quickly and let them know if they passed or failed. Lastly, it simplifies and clarifies the fees for licensing and exams. So, if you pay to take an exam, that fee actually covers one exam, not 2. So that's really the major changes in the language. I believe the changes in their entirety are in the packet, in which the existing code struck out, so you can see what it said and what it's going to say if we make these changes. That's the electrical portion. At the same time, we are going to implement all of these changes in the testing to the plumbing exam as well, so that plumbers trying to take the exam understand the process, have a reasonable timetable, and know what to expect when they sign up for a test. 90 days, they're notified. 60 days before they have to sign up, and they'll be made well aware of their score after no later than 20 days after. So just trying to make Oswego more business friendly, trying to improve the reputation Oswego has for these 2 fields, especially where people think they can come in here and be treated fairly and get a fair shot. And I think it's just the right thing to do as far as transparency in government goes.
All right, very good. Thank you very much for that detailed report on the changes. You're correct. In our packet, each of the counselors had that were given was the changes that were spelled out. So I certainly agree with you that these changes were done with a lot of thought and probably well overdue. So when this comes up for a vote, I'm certainly supporting this. Any comments or concerns from the council on this item? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Councillor McBurney, Councillor Corradino.
Councillor Corradino.
Yes.
Councillor McBurney.
Mic's off. There you go.
Yes.
Okay. At this point, I believe this was the last meeting. I'd like to thank the mayor for all of his help on this and all the councilors, and of course, Brooke for taking the minutes. Have a good evening.